to like cheese the AI.
Okay,
I found ways to, so yeah, with Tekken, there's just Tekken 7's got so many characters, right? And it's awesome. It's cool for all the people that have all this legacy, skill and knowledge of Tekken that they've played through these characters. They have a main, right? I have struggled so mightily to find a main in that game. And with the vampire chick, I forget what the combo was, but she had like two combos that the AI would just walk into it every time. I'm like, I'm not really learning how to play this game, but I'm leveling up and unlocking, cosmetic BS as I went along. I got kind of all right with Noctis, but at the same time, I don't like trying to get good with guest characters because the next iteration of the game they're not going to be there. So it's like why get good with Noctis if when Tekken 8 rolls around, I'm going to be back to square one. It's like, do I play the dude with the big eraser head? Do I try and do one of these other people? I don't know.
Paul.
Yeah.
Well, it's sad because like I'm starting to really get into Geese, and man, I'd love for him to stay. Like he's just such a good character. I'm trying to get the combos to work right with him, and I just need more time. I need more training with him. But only playing one day at a week is just like kicking my butt. So, but I'm having some really good views with me playing Tekken, me, Gabriel, and my buddy Scrappy and our buddy George. And Adrian said he'll be on the next one, but we're going to be playing Street Fighter this week instead of playing
Tekken.
When we're recording this, folks, this is the 14th. So the 16th we'll be playing Street Fighter 5. But for those who are listening to us when this actually airs, it'll be in 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, maybe at least 3 episodes from now.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah. So check it out. But here, let's just go ahead and get into it, and we'll go and we'll start the whole thing. So hey everyone, welcome to the Dad Level Podcast. This is going to be episode 34. We're just going to randomly talk again about what we've been doing, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, the life that goes on and everything.
What we plan on watching.
And maybe even I really would like to have this discussion with a couple of my buddies, especially my buddy Jeff and Josh, about like Scott Hall passing. And I might wait, but we may briefly touch on it here and then go into a deeper episode.
Is it over for him?
Yeah. I just saw he just
okay. I had
because whenever I saw at work earlier, they had been taken off life support a couple hours ago, and that he was still alive and everything. And then I just saw the news. Josh posted on Facebook about it and said that tell him rest in peace and everything. I was like, I had to go check and make sure. But yeah, TMZ and all of them reporting that he's already passed. So, I mean, it's funny because
there it is. Okay, yeah. I got it.
My memories of Scott Hall were when he was in WCW with the NWO and everything. Because I watched wrestling back in the day, but not as my buddies. And where they would do the whole thing of mimicking everything and doing the whole backyard wrestling, but it was really good. I think middle school was whenever WCW was getting really big, and you had oh man, I try to remember some of the wrestlers back then. My favorite was always Goldberg, though. But
Goldberg was good. Right, there was, because Scott Hall was Razor Ramon, right? You had Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash. Like if you're talking about the NWO, then you got Hulk, you got
Hollywood Hogan, yeah, and then
you got who I always called 1-2-3 Kid, but that was his old name. Then he became X-Pac.
I think so.
Yeah. So and then
Eric Bischoff and all that.
Yeah.
I had technically started watching wrestling just a little bit before that, right? Like in the in the heydays of when Bret Hart was big and Shawn Michaels was doing his first run through. It was like right before the Attitude Era was when a buddy of mine started getting me really into wrestling. And then the Attitude Era hit, right? And it became, everybody and their mother. I had one friend that quoted Steve Austin any chance he got to just quote Steve Austin. Some quote was coming out of his mouth about it. So, and then of course you had the Rock and all the quotes that came up from that. Do you smell and all that good stuff?
Do you remember the one dude that was in high school that would sit there and just talk like the Rock the whole time? I know Andrew would like be laughing and know exactly who I was talking about, but that's all he would do is just like, because like when y'all came into the high school as I was leaving, and all he would do is just quote the Rock, and it was like talking third person. I'm like, dude, come on, man, have some personality.
That was tons of people, man. That was tons of people all quoting that stuff. My absolute favorite, of all the wrestlers, of all the entrances, right? Everybody loves Undertaker, everybody loves Kane. The one entrance of every wrestler that I always will remember to this day were the Bushwhack brothers, because they would come out and they'd be doing this. It was the weirdest, dumbest looking thing ever, but it's always stuck in my mind. I was just seeing these two big old buff dudes just walking out, and I don't know where they got this from, what it was supposed to be doing, but they would just walk out, just sticking their arms up in this really weird way. And it was just so weird and so odd. It always just stuck with me, right? You got so many better entrances. You have Rey Mysterio popping out of the ground with all the fireworks and stuff, and it's awesome. And you got all that good stuff. But for some reason, I think, oh yeah, great wrestler entrances, the Bushwhack brothers, because why not, right?
Well, and then was it Andrew's buddy Memo, and him always come up to me and going, "Hey, Triple H." Just because of my nose and everything in my face. I'm like, dude, I'm not Triple H, man. What's up the game? Just because I'm a gamer does not mean I'm Triple H, bro.
Can I throw in a couple preparation for a wrestling thing?
Yeah.
Okay, The Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
One of his later themes was called Crank It Up. Was by the Brand New Sin. I am friends with several members of Brand New Sin. They are right here. They are right in Syracuse. Now, I used to work with Chris Weichman, who was with Earth Crisis before that.
Awesome. Hopefully Josh will hear this episode. He can geek out.
But yeah, I used to be neighbors to Joe, the lead singer. We used to be next door neighbors. So when they told me that they got that, I was like, oh, that's sweet. It's a good tune too.
Yeah. Man, what else? Well, you had Kurt Angle and his whole thing about being the Olympic wrestling medaler and stuff.
Yeah.
And
you want to get into grapplers? You had Kurt Angle, you had Ken Shamrock. Again, kind of going back to Sting and Jericho with the Walls of Jericho, right? Like, yeah. There were so many crazy, weird, just awesome characters from back then. And I honestly have stopped watching it. I keep hearing all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't watch it either.
I've been hearing a lot of stuff about AEW. I've just got so much crap I'm trying to get through and watch and play and read and all this stuff. There ain't time. There is not time. You gotta pick your battles and just do the best you got, because like, man, I'm so behind on so much stuff. It's nuts.
Well, okay, so there's two things here, because I want to talk about one, which is Booker T, who's awesome. I've gotten to meet him a couple times and stuff, and then of course his school was here. Our buddy, I'm not going to mention his name in this episode. Stupid person, did some stupid things. He could have had a career in wrestling, which he wanted to be, and he just screwed it up and then screwed up his life even more. But anyway, but most of those guys would sit there and they would literally go over to his house, and they would have mats out. They do the whole back road wrestling, all that stuff. And Jeff and Josh had Jeff was Dast and Josh was Tombstone. I forget what Kevin's name was, or Andy's, but I was over there a couple of times to record for them. I have no clue what happened to those videos. It would be hilarious to find. But the biggest things I remember from that time around was like for us with Andrew making us as characters in SmackDown. And actually, there's one other. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, him making all the characters. I remember I got the game so we could do it. And we would just make characters and then we'd wrestle. And then so I was making Dragon Ball Z characters, Solid Snake, all the video game characters and anime characters I wanted. While Andrew was all making all of us. But the best one was Mark with his unemployment drop because he wasn't working at the time, and that was hilarious. And then your character had a rivalry with Mark's character and then my dad's character. It's just funny.
Yes. No, that was before I knew pretty much all of your friends, I didn't know any of your friends actually. I just knew them because Andrew literally lived like right around the corner for me for a number of years. And so I just wandered down to his house and, go over there, knock on the door, be like, hey man, what's up? You want to play some games? You're like, sure. Go in there. We play Red Faction 2. And then he busts out SmackDown and it'd be me and him in a tag team match against some computers. And I'm just like, who is Mr. Shooter? And why is he kicking my ass right now? It's just getting destroyed by people. And I'm like, who are these people? What is going on? What have you done, Andrew? What is this? So yeah, no, that was the best was all those times of just getting in there. I don't even think half the time we even fought against the regular wrestlers because he had literally created like this entire separate roster of characters that was just all the created people that he just would sit there just day in and day out. All right, I'm gonna make this guy now. I'm gonna make that. And he had like this weird canon in his head where, obviously this guy's going to be more of a luchador style and this one's going to be more of a heavy style. And this is going to be, he had a lore going, it felt like, just in his own mind that he just ran off of and built up all this awesome roster. It was good, man. And Andrew and his SmackDown stuff was fantastic.
Okay, so what was it? The first wrestling game that came out on the PS2, I think they all got me to buy it. No, or someone bought it and they would play it at my house because I was the only one who had a PS2 at the time. And then they were like, let's use your memory card. And that game took up so much of your memory card. It's like, dude, I have to go buy another memory card so that way I can play my games.
See, that's what saved me. So thinking of the PS2 and memory, like, we talked before about Final Fantasy 11 and how much I did not get into that game because I could never play with anybody because my parents would turn off the internet. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to someone on the phone, like, dude, you got to get on. I've been on here for like 4 hours and I have yet to get in a party. And like, all right, man, I'll get on at like, whatever hour. I'm like, all right, cool. And then get ready to get on. And it's like, my parents would be like, oh, we're scared of people hacking us from the street or whatever, for whatever reason. So we got to turn off the internet at night. And I'm like, this is that, but back in the day, whenever you bought Final Fantasy 11, the little starter package or whatever, it came with the internal hard drive for the PS2. Yep. So man, I installed that thing and I had one memory card from there on out because I would just move stuff. I would open it up. I wouldn't have the game, or instead of booting up with the game, I'd boot up, go to the hard drive, move whatever I needed over into the memory card, and then go about my day. It was awesome. That was the best purchase. Not Final Fantasy 11, just that hard drive. It made my PS2 experience so good.
So I was watching, my Retro Life, and they had a video today of him going different places. So basically, he has like these videos where his dad recorded him, like when he was younger, like their whole gaming journey and just different things and events in life. He recorded. I wish we would have done that. I had a tape recorder. Sorry, which is probably the reason why I love audio so much and I want to do a podcast because. But anyway, it's just really cool because there's been moments when he's recorded. I'm like, man, it's very similar to my dad and what we went through. And we've made reference to the fact that we should have had like video cameras and recorders and everything to record everything we did back then. Man, some of that stuff would have been epic.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff was epic, but we could just share it with everybody.
It would just be that much more epic.
Yeah. So his video was about going to different game stores in 2000. I was like, man, I worked at Game Crazy at the time, still going to high school. And he was talking about they were at Funko Land and they were like showing all the different like games. His cousin was there. And then he got to the point where he got to the counter and there was the pre-order for the PS2. And I'm like, man, that just brings me back. Because here's the funny thing. So when I worked at Game Crazy, and we started doing the pre-orders, there was only 2 people who pre-ordered. And the sad thing is, it wasn't actually in the system, right? It was on a piece of paper. So I grabbed that paper and I'm like, all right. So I wrote my name into number 3. So I would have been the 3rd person to get a PS2. And I'm sitting there in high school going, all my friends, because you couldn't pre-order it anywhere. And they're like, you're going to be scarce. I was like, no, I got one. Don't worry. I'm going to get one. And had me like Andrew and Robert, like, no, you're not. And just messing with me. I'm like, no, I'm going to get one. I'm telling you, I'm going to get one. Sure enough, that day, whenever the pre-orders came out, I had my dad and Jason go up there. And Chris, my boss, was working. Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? We're here to pick up the pre-order for Vince's PS2. And sure enough, here you go. So when I came home that day, there was my PS2. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, you can't beat that. I think I got Tekken Tag Tournament and was it the Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha on the PS2 with a memory card. And everybody came over that weekend to start playing the PS2 because I was the only one in the school that got one. And it was funny because I called to make sure they got it. And Dad's like, you sure? We could probably flip this and then make enough money to buy like 3 of them. I was like, no, I want one, Dad. You don't understand. I have to have it. So sure enough, came home, saw that blue box. I was ready to go, man. Ready to go. And there's like renting games and everything. I think we rented like what? SSX Tricky? I'm sorry. We rented SSX, the first one, and then maybe a couple other games, Kessen, with plus the 2 ones I had. We just rocked that whole console like that whole weekend. Launch party at my house. We were in a car accident in 95 when we were going to school. Some lady just like wasn't paying attention, smacked into the car behind us. That car smacked into us. We were pushed into a truck, and that truck was pushed into a car. And like that messed up my dad's back. My sister had some issues. I had none, but it was like the settlement from the whole thing. I was like, yeah, cool. I got to like $2,000 or something. So I ended up using part of it to get the PS2, and then what was it, the Pokemon Yellow Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow. Then there's some other things like toys, movies, and things.
Invested wisely.
Yeah, I did. I invested wisely for an 18-year-old kid, you know?
There you go.
I can't complain.
No.
I had no prospects. I was finishing high school and was about to start college. I mean, what else was I going to put into? Most people would have put it into a car, but it's like, why? Why put it in a car when I could play in the virtual world?
Yeah, why put it in a real car when I can drive a virtual car in Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, later on.
And run people over and explode it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually had that discussion with some friends of ours the other day because the husband's trying to talk the wife into letting him get a PS5 basically. And she's like, why would you spend that amount of money on the console, this, that, and the other? And she's like, and so eventually somehow I got brought into the conversation and I was like, look, I get a lot of mileage out of my game consoles. It's like, I'm looking at my PS3 right here, right? She's like, you don't hold on to any of your old consoles. I was like, I still got my PS3. I got a GameCube, the original Xbox sitting up there. I would have my PS2, but my sister has that right now. I have no idea if she's actually bothering to use it because I don't think she's touched it in years. It's like, no, I have all these things because like the PS3, man, the PS3 was the cheapest Blu-ray player you could get when that thing came out, right?
No kidding.
I mean, it was like that made the most sense. So I sat there and I ran it all down and I was like, yeah, I mean, between the games, being able to stream everything through it, being the entertainment hub that consoles can be, it's like, no. It's not just, spending all that for this. It's like you're getting
a lot more for it. Yeah.
You're getting entertainment value out of it if that's what you're into and all that.
And the original PS3s were backwards compatible too.
Yes, the first ones.
Although that backwards compatibility I found out was a little broken because like I played Chrono Cross on one, and I found out that certain games, once you got to a point in them, it would glitch out. Like with Chrono Cross, you get to the point where you go to fight Glenn's dad on that weird spirit island or whatever the hell it was. And Gariah, I would go up, I would go to initiate the fight, and the entire game would lock down, and I couldn't do anything about it. And so I went, I looked into it, and apparently there are just some games for those systems where they would do that. So if you went out
go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you went out and bought the PS3 to try and finally beat Chrono Cross like me, because I have yet to beat that stupid game, and I'm looking forward to its re-release now, so I can maybe finally beat it. Four times? God, man. Did you do the Sphinx puzzle in it as well? I'm sure.
I got the perfect ending.
Okay.
Twice.
Yeah. All I wanted to do in that game was get the double Einlansers for Glenn. Like looking it up, it's like, none of the optimized parties had Glenn in it, but I'm like, no. The second I can get Glenn, he's just gonna be in my party because I don't care. He's Frog. Or he's basically the descendant of Frog.
Same thing with Guile. It's supposed to. Wasn't supposed to. Well, it was originally supposed to be Magus. Then they changed it, and then they go, maybe he is, maybe he's not. They couldn't make up their mind. But he freaking floats around. He has the the purplish white hair. I mean, come on, just give it to us. Don't
Right.
But no, because that was funny when I worked at Game Crazy. My manager Chris was like, "Hey, you want your PS1 modded?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I when he got the mod chip in to do it, I realized that the PS1 that I had wasn't the right type for that mod. So I had to buy another one. It was one of the newer ones, so the mod would work. I was like, "Yes, this is awesome." So I'm playing Dragon Ball, I'm playing the Macross game, it's a couple other stuff, and then I get Wild Arms 2. Put the game in, it goes, "No, we detect that you have a mod chip in your system. You can't play this." And I was like, "What?" So I had to go take it up to Chris. I told him about it. He's like, "Oh, okay. I guess they have some kind of detection software now." So he went and snipped one wire off, and it worked, and I could play the game. And I was like, "Well, I guess I don't have a modded system anymore. Somewhere in a box, I have that mod chip still. I could probably go get one and mod it and be all right." But
or just repair the
yeah, well, no, I took it completely out. We ended up taking it completely out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, and those were the days back then. I had a lot of great memories playing import games and stuff, or just gaming in general. But yeah, I mean the PS2. I still remember. Okay, so whenever the Bouncer came out, it was like to us it was supposed to be the Shimu killer. Of course, that game was so short. It had amazing graphics and everything, but it wasn't anything like Shimu. It was just a beat 'em up. And but I ended up getting the multi-tap for it, so me, Andrew, and Franklin could play through it to all three characters, and that was fun.
Sweet.
You trying to remember who Franklin was?
No, I'm trying to think of yeah, because I don't think I knew Franklin. And that was the funny thing, right? Like I never got into the import side of games, and sadly I never played the Bouncer. I was trying to think. There's like 3 games that everybody talked about as being really good, but they were all really, really short. Bouncer was one of them. Vagrant Story, I think, was one of them. And then wasn't Xenogears, the original Xenogears, fairly short? I don't recall.
No, that was pretty long.
No? That was good.
Pretty long, yeah.
Okay.
The problem is that once you got to second disc, it was like because they ran out of money, or actually I think it was the higher ups were like, "Okay, you need to just finish this game." It's all like just cutscenes and some gameplay, and it's not a whole lot. And it's like,
maybe that's what I'm thinking of then.
Yeah.
That might be what I was thinking of, that the ending was it felt short in the sense of the ending of it was rushed.
Mhm.
But man, that is one thing that I definitely do not miss is multi-disc games. As we covered before with my problem with multi-discs. Like I cannot imagine, right? Like so I'm in the middle of playing Elden Ring along with my well, I say along with my son. He's almost beaten it because but that's because he blew through certain stuff. He got a decent build and started taking down bosses, and he just plowed forward, just taking down boss after boss after boss. And I'm like, here I am, like going over here is like, oh hey, did you run into the wolf guy over here that has like this whole side quest to get to this other area? And he's like, no, where is he? Oh, he's right here. And he would go there. He's like, no, he's not. Like, well, did you talk to this person and that person and do this and that? No, I didn't do any of that. It was like, oh, well, I guess you missed out on that quest line. My bad. So
he
now
pulled,
he's trying to go ahead.
as I say, he pulled a Fallout 3. You know, you just get to the whole water treatment place and stuff, and you watch your dad die.
Yeah, you're like, man, that was quick. What happened? Yeah, like that game, man. And that's one of the things I'm grateful for this generation of being able to have a game that size with that amount of crap in it. Like there is so much crap in that game. Good Lord, like just the size of the world and the fact that you can go underground too, right? There's there's just so much going on with that game. And it just the loading times aren't they're there, right? It's not like when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima and I would go to load a new area and just instantly I'm there. But man, it's like fractions of a second, just boom into the next area, moving along, right? There's hardly any load times to it. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's like every Souls game. You get to a point where you just want to put your head through like a brick wall because like this boss, you're just sitting there and you're like, okay, I've dodged 12 times in a row. I have no more stamina, but this is the only opening window I have to hit you. And if I try to hit you, I'm just going to eat like 8 hits after this. Why do you do this to me, From Software? And I'm not going to learn how to parry.
So what you're supposed to do is be like Cartman and the rest of the team and just level off the first little monsters to get to like the max level, then go fight everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared about the first patch because there are a couple broken farms in the game right now, and I don't want them to patch it out because like when I played the original Demon Souls and I found out about the item duplication glitch, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Boom, power myself up. There's still moments of those games that are brutally hard because of the design of the bosses. And going into it, I was like, oh cool, I can like be this really high level and not just get absolutely murdered by these little minion characters all over the place. And even with Elden Ring, right, I'm a level 120 and there's still areas where I come up, it's 2 little bitty minions and like a dog, and all of a sudden it's just bip and I get stun locked. The horse dies, I fall to the ground, somehow they're able to OTG me and I'm dead. Okay, that happened. My life bar is like this big. I've got a decent sized life bar and it just gets obliterated in less than a second by little peons because it's a Souls game. Why not? But it's fun, man. It's been a blast. I've been really enjoying it. And in between, so the PlayStation Plus game of the month the other day, a while ago, was Persona Strikers.
Yeah.
And I started to play it and I realized I never beat Persona 5. I was like, why didn't I beat Persona 5? And then it hit me. Oh, because right around the time that I finally went out and bought Persona 5, they announced Persona 5 Royal. And I'm like, you sons of bitches. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to play this one because it's pointless now, because now they've added whole new dungeons, whole new characters. They've revamped everything. So I finally sat down and was like, all right, I'm now going to go and play through and beat Persona 5. So when my son's playing Elden Ring, I just move over to my room and turn on Persona, and I'm making my way through Persona 5 just so I can play Strikers, which is just
it's a sequel after all that too. So,
but it's a warrior style game. I'm like,
yes, it is a warrior style game.
I'm like, this is kind of weird, but I like warrior style games.
Well,
honestly, the best warrior style game they have ever done was the first Zelda one, just because of how you unlock stuff in that game. Like,
I like the second one better, just because it added the story that was missing from Breath of the Wild.
No, because it breaks the story in Breath of the Wild. Anyways, Like
There
that
was
one's good.
story. There was no story in Breath of the Wild. It was some cutscenes. Everything else was
Yeah.
like, I'm Link. I'm just gonna go explore, and then a little bit of dialogue sprinkles here, and a little bit of dialogue story sprinkles here, and then I mean, it was a great tech demo, man.
Nintendo,
Very-
no. Nintendo, what they did was Nintendo looked and they said, "What are the kids playing these days?"
Oh, Fantasy 15.
No. They're like, man, everybody's talking about because Breath of the Wild is a Souls game, right? It is not
Yes,
a destroy
it is.
me, just
It is.
crush my heart, my soul, level of difficulty. But it's just a Souls game, right? Because that's all Souls games do. They're just like, hey, here's the world, go forth and you're gonna die. Have fun. But you're gonna have fun while you're dying. And here's a little bit of lore over here, and you talk to these NPCs and you kind of get an idea of something that happened over there. Breath of the Wild told you a little bit more of the story, right? From the flashbacks and interacting with Zelda and hunting down all the little pictures and all that crap. So you got more of the actual backstory, but that's what they modeled it after, right?
Not a whole lot. But go ahead.
Not a whole lot, but it was enough, right? It's enough to let you and if anything, it gives you more intrigue for the next entry because it's like, okay, what is Ganon going to be in this? Is Ganon going to be in this?
So two things on that. All right. So here's the thing. First off, one thing is the fact that the thing I got out of Breath of the Wild, as much as I enjoyed that game, I enjoyed playing it all the way through and doing everything I did. But like I said, it still felt like a glorified tech demo. Also, the story that was being told about the past was the actual Link game that I wanted to play. And then so
there you go. Hyrule
when
Warriors.
when I got Hyrule Warriors, like, man, this is what I wanted. Why? I mean, of course, it's got all this combat and stuff. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. That's fine. But I still would like. I'm hoping that this next game has more to it because I guess I'm just starved for a new Zelda game because like I didn't play Skyward Sword because I didn't want to play with the Wii remote. I want to play with the controller. This is the reason why I picked up Twilight Princess on the GameCube. So one, Link could be left-handed like he's always been in every game. And two, I didn't have to play with the Wii remote. I could play with the GameCube controller. And plus the graphics look better on the GameCube than they do on the Wii. Why am I going to do that? Why am I going to torture myself? So,
quick question.
Okay.
You never used the GameCube controller with the Wii?
Well,
because we were able to do that with all the games we had.
Well, Skyward Sword you can only play with the Wiimote because you got to use the nunchuck and the Wiimote sword and your weapon and everything else. And then same thing with I believe the Wii version of Twilight Princess. I don't know, but I mean, like I waited to get because the Wii one came out first, and I was like, when they said, "Oh, it's gonna come out for the GameCube," all right, I'll wait. I waited patiently, but yeah, I don't know. I after going through Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, the Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks, those are still better games to me than Skyward Sword. And
or you mean Breath of the Wild?
Well,
you said you never played Skyward Sword.
Story-wise, yes, they're better than Breath of the Wild. Gameplay-wise, no. I mean, but I don't know. It's just me ranting and raving about things I can't control. But if I could go back in time, I would tell Morimoto that, the Wii is a horrible idea. Do not force people to play this game or give the people the option. It's like Resident Evil 7. Oh, yeah, we built the game in third person, but then we saw PT and made the game fully first person. Why? If you made the game in third person, just allow people to play it that way. And the people who want to play it first person, the option to play it that way too. It's just a toggle view change. Why wouldn't you do that?
Elder Scrolls has done it forever, or at least since Morrowind.
Even Half-Life, the first one, has the ability to switch to to third person mode. I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of people that know that, but you can.
Doesn't Biohazard do that?
Well, Biohazard's the first Resident Evil. Well, Biohazard's no, sorry. You mean Resident Evil 7 Biohazard or
No,
Biohazard?
is it Biohazard I'm thinking of with the underwater thing with the big orange suit and I think a kid or God, I thought that was called Biohazard. My old man
Oh,
brain.
you're talking about Bioshock. I think it was
Bioshock, thank
Bioshock.
you.
But that's a fantastic series right there too. I'm seriously waiting on the next Bioshock that they've rumored to be coming out. Of course, I got an amazing story for what I think the fourth one should be about. I think it should take place on a space station and be the thing that's burst the other two, where you find out the reason why there's sea slugs in the water that they start taking and harvesting are from actually genetic things from way in the future that they were created in space, that when the time loop that happens in the game drops everything into the water, and that's where Andrew Ryan happens to find these.
Every time I think of people describing time loop stories and just any kind of story that deals with times, I always think of that line from Jeff Daniels and Looper, where he's just like, all this time travel stuff will just fry your brain like an egg. Yeah.
They in which is what my next topic is going to be. The movie The Atom Project. They have a really good explanation of how time works in that. I liked it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am looking forward to watching that.
So that movie, if anyone hasn't watched it, go watch The Atom Project on Netflix. It's fantastic. I mean, even Ryan Reynolds has his moments where he's like Ryan Reynolds in the movie, but the moments where he's very like serious.
No, I mean, Ryan Reynolds has really stepped out of, he's done roles where he's really stepped out of that, just kind of being the funny guy, right? Where he's like that whole movie Buried, right? Where he spent the entire time in a car. Like that was a good movie. And he has shown that he can act outside of that range that he's kind of known for, right? I mean, anytime you see Ryan Reynolds, you still kind of expect him at some point to be Ryan Reynolds, but
yeah, of course,
he's definitely shown that he's got range as an actor.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me at all that he'd be able to carry that. So that's, yeah, I just need to sit down and watch it. It's like just carving out time, right? Again, goes back to the whole trying to figure out what you're going to do and when and where. Like with Netflix, and the last movie I actually watched last night, because it's like a lean, mean hour and 15 minutes, was the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I haven't watched it yet. I need to.
It's a Chainsaw Massacre movie. I read this review where somebody's like, the ending of the new Chainsaw Massacre movie is unexplainable, and they go through and start talking about how, because it's supposed to be a direct sequel to the original movie, but 50 years in the future, basically where we're at now. So they're like, he's got to be at least 60, 70 years old. He's carving up 20, 30-year-old somethings. He's like, there's no way he never had supernatural aspects to him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but did you see when he cut the lady in half while she was trying to climb out the window? Did you see that shot and how awesome that was? How the camera panned around the whole time, and then you see her front end fall off, and then her guts. That was a good shot. That was some good effects, guys.
Well, like, of course, it's the whole like. Yeah, Toby Hooper with his movies and stuff, man. Back then, that was what made Texas Chainsaw Massacre so great, was the shots and what he was able to do with the movie.
Right. Well,
and
the problem that it seems like people have with this was just Toby Hooper's original one is, if you really go back and watch it, is not that gory, right? There aren't a lot of people getting cut up with chainsaws in that movie. In fact, I think one of the only people that actually on screen gets cut by the chainsaw is Leatherface when he's running after.
Oh yeah,
cuts his leg. Like everybody else basically just gets beat to death with hammers or whatever. But this one, this one, they took the gore and they jacked it to like 11. They broke the knob off, and it's
where I left it by mistake.
It's shot really crazy. I mean, it's just there's one shot where he's got this hammer and he's fighting this dude, and it never cuts away. It doesn't do a like I swing and then you see the leg. It's a single solid, like he swings down, hits this dude in the knee, and his leg just goes back like that. And I'm like, that was, I mean, it's quick, it's brutal, but it looked really good.
Yeah.
It's a slasher movie, so the story is almost non-existent, right? It's we need to get some characters to a place. We need to initiate the bad guy into kill mode, and then we're just gonna unleash him on these
Just
people.
let him go. Let him go. Yeah, exactly.
And murder will ensue, and it does, and it looked fantastic. So to that person who's like, the ending is unexplainable, no, the ending is explained perfectly. Leatherface exists, and he kills people with chainsaws. That's it. He doesn't have to be some weird zombie thing like Jason. He doesn't have to have whatever the weird supernatural bullshit that eventually got applied to Michael.
Myers,
which
yeah.
I mean, I don't care about any of that. He could be 80 years old. If they want to make a movie eventually where Leatherface is in just a wheelchair that has chainsaws attached to the wheels, and he's just wheeling himself, just carving through people, like, first of all, it'll be very pro, disabled people, of showing that even in his old age and even in that state, he's able to just murder, teenagers at will, right? I'm all for that. And yeah, I'm good. Just give me horror, just terrible, awful people being murdered in terrible, awful ways, and I'm good. I'm fine with it.
Colin, you got anything to say about that one, or you want to?
What, as far as like just slasher, kill them, love it.
Well, have you seen?
He's right there. I mean, you're right. I mean, when it comes to certain horror movies, you don't need a whole lot of backstory. You don't need a lot of juxtaposition. You've got a crazy person who does crazy things and let it play out. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like the new Halloween movies. Okay. The slash trilogy, the Halloween Ends that's coming out later on. Basically, those three are completely canon with the first one, but 2 through everything else is no longer canon. But what they're doing is they're giving you more backstory with Laurie and how she became this ultra survivalist and stuff like that. Fine. Okay, that's really about as far as you need to take it. Okay. She powers up to fight Michael. You start adding all these other things, you start bringing in back all these legacy characters, the kids growing up. You start getting, QAnon and crazy bits with Anthony Michael Hall's character, who is the kid. I forget his name at the moment. I'm so freaking
I can't remember his name.
But and it just takes it off the rails, and the mob mentality. And no, okay. You don't need all that.
So it's like, what's believable?
Yeah, I mean,
Laurie,
I guess
it's Laurie Strode becoming the survivalist to take out Michael, or Sarah Connor, who was just a waitress that becomes a almost Terminator herself to take out Terminators.
I think they're both realistic.
I'm fine with both of those things.
Yeah, I am too. That's awesome.
That's just it. Both are not, because of one traumatic event in their lives, they went and hardened themselves to be able to deal with it should it happen again. And in both their cases, it did happen again.
Now, here's something to add to that too. The most badass woman in any film right now, or back in the day anyway, that goes through that transition in one movie is Ripley in Aliens.
Yes.
Because
again,
she is still dealing with the trauma and everything from that first movie.
Plastic spoons.
Couldn't realize the bullshit from the corporation, the job that they were going to sue her and take her flight card away and all this other stuff. To, I'm going to go kick the queen's ass with just a pulse rifle of flamethrower taped together with flares and grenades.
That's what she had.
And that's what she had. She was like, I've had it up to here with you aliens, and I'm just going to wreck shop. And it was like, the famous line, get away from her, you. And her and the power loader just going to town against the queen.
Yeah. See, for me, that's just as believable as, say, Frank Castle. everybody wants to say, yeah, Frank Castle, he was this, and he was this and that, and he became the one man army because of one traumatic event. Just because it's just a, it doesn't have to be gender specific. You get
Right.
one person who has that right, that right mindset, that right moment in time where they can do their thing. It opens up to whatever.
Yeah.
And that's exactly this, Sarah Connor, Ripley, Laurie Strode. I mean, it's a fight or flight thing. And clearly they fight.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I like badass women in movies because, it's not all Legally Blonde or whatever the hell you want to insert there.
Yeah. Well, okay. And let me go back to the movie I was going to talk about real quick. That just because I want to state this, and we continue on the track of what we're talking about right now. I felt when I watched the Adam Project, I felt this movie was great for a lot of reasons. And one of those mainly is because this is a very father movie. We don't get a whole lot of movies where fathers are portrayed in a good light because of whatever, because I think Hollywood hates fathers. So it's like they're and actually I think society hates fathers. But it's also a good father-son movie. Yeah, and I was telling Amber about this today. Like the other movie that I felt that same way, even though I had problems with some of the stuff in the movie, was 8-Bit Christmas. That was another father-son movie, but you don't really realize it. But it was also a father-daughter movie. It transitioned. I mean, it did that whole for both of them, those characters. Right. And when there's moments in that movie that made me tear up because it's like I'm being on both sides of that, being a son, that perspective, but also being a father. And it made me see that movie differently because I'd love to be able to meet my son in the future now, what he is later on. And, I've always thought about if I could time travel, I'd go meet my dad, back then and, tell him who I am and, what I've become and that, he does a good job and, not to worry about stuff, not to stress out. Definitely don't buy a bookshelf off of Facebook around 2019. Whether he would listen to me or not, I don't know. Maybe I'll do the whole Doc Brown thing or Marty with Doc Brown and just write it on a piece of paper and then put it in an envelope and give it to him back then and hopefully he reads it.
Oh no, y'all moved quite a bit, so it might have gotten lost in some.
That's true. Or it could have got stolen, Hey, here's what you need to put stocks into. Oh. So now we can just kind of BS until Colin gets back, but
that's fine. So there's very few movies that I've seen that really strike that chord with me, but I don't know. Probably the one movie that hit me the hardest that way was weirdly enough Road to Perdition, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is such a damn good movie. Like the whole dynamic between Paul Newman, Tom Hanks' son, that whole thing, all the way up into the end, right, where the whole time he's trying to keep his son from following him into, his life. And you get all the way to the end where you think, right, that he's gone through all this stuff. And now at the very end of it, he's going to have to sit there and watch his son commit one of the things that he always wanted him to avoid. And there's that shot and Jude Law falls and the kid's sitting there holding the gun. And then it pans over and you see that Tom Hanks was the one that shot him. Man, it was such a good moment, right? Yeah, that movie was so good. There's all kinds of movies out there that, go for those tear-jerking moments. And I kind of joke with the wife, right? Like you've got those shows like This Is Us, I think is the name of it, right? Where all it is them just trying to find every single heartstring imaginable and pluck it just for the sake of trying to draw tears out of people, right? And it's like, that's fine when it makes sense in the story, right, in the world. and if that's what you're going for, I can't deal with that level of emotional drama, right? Enough to watch a show, right? A show with that kind of emotional drama, every single episode would just wear on me after a while. But it's good every once in a while when you can find those movies that really hits that, that emotional beat in you that really makes you appreciate, your parents or your kids or your wife or whomever, right? That's important to you, that just gives you that good little moment of nostalgia or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre will not do that. Let me be clear, unless you're psychotic, maybe.
My boy is special. He's chainsawing those kids.
There is no. He legit has a mother figure in this movie that is. She's like, no, it's okay, boy. Go back to your room. Mama's okay. Like, okay, you're about to bite it, aren't you? Because again, that movie is so short. Like, it's moving as fast as it can to get to everything. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we're not lingering on anything for too long. Just getting right to the chainsaw, and this is good.
Oh,
That's what puts my ass in the seat, is going to see the chainsaw.
Right. I mean, if that's what you're going to see, right? If you go and you're gonna go watch Downton Abbey the movie, and some guy shows up with a chainsaw and starts cutting his way through all the posh British folks, A, I will watch that movie. B, that's probably not what you came in for. So
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
as long as the person wielding the chainsaw goes groovy.
there you go. Just starts firing off shotgun blasts at people. Turns out that the entirety of Downton Abbey was sitting on top of a hellmouth, and someone read a page from the Necronomicon. So
and all the Deadites start showing up. There's a movie idea for you folks.
Hellmouth Abbey.
Hellmouth Abbey.
Pride and Prejudice and zombies eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
Oh man. So talking about the PS2, just because I want to segue into this, that was also the first system that had the cheapest system you could buy to have your first DVD player.
Right.
But so what was the first DVD that you bought?
Oh man. That's a tough one, because I got to DVDs fairly late. So I'll say the first TV show, I guess I'll go with this. The first TV show, I think it was a TV show, was the first thing I got. And I remember it very vividly because I got grounded and my parents took away my TV. But the way the PS2 was, right, you could plug the audio cables into a stereo.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone for years had talked about Family Guy around me, right? And I never really watched Family Guy. So I went out and I bought the first season, and then they packaged the second and third season together in little DVD box sets. So technically I listened to the first season and a half of Family Guy without ever seeing a frame of the animation. And that's how I was introduced to Family Guy, because I was like, I kept hearing all these people quote all these jokes and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take my PlayStation 2, I'm going to plug it into my stereo, and I'm going to listen to Family Guy because I can't watch it. And most of the jokes still work. Some of the, the visual gags clearly you don't get, but the dialogue itself carried itself pretty well. So that's the first DVD I can think of off the top of my head that I remembered purchasing and using my PS2 to enjoy.
So mine's pretty easy. Mine was The Matrix. That was the first one I picked up. I remember going to Best Buy at Baybrook Mall and seeing it. And I was like, yep, gotta get it. Took it home with me. I was like, because I had a little extra cash because I was still working at Game Crazy at the time. I think I was doing something at the time. But Colin?
I'm trying to remember because that was a while back for me.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a minute.
Hey, it's been 20 years. No, I'm sorry, 19 years.
Oh God, why do you got to say that, man?
Maybe Batman '89 or South Park. bigger,
Okay.
longer, uncut.
I'm sorry, I take that back. Because it's 2020, so 2022 now. So it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colin. Say again.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Batman 89.
Okay.
Or South Park.
That was back when they had the two versions on the disc, the
Yeah.
widescreen and the box format.
Mhm.
You had to flip it over to get the one you wanted. With the little red ring that told you which side
Side you're on.
had to
Yeah.
be up to be.
Dude,
Pete-
that's I was gonna say that's another reason why I want to like take my DVDs and move them to some kind of cloud format. Because like I've got sitting over there a collection of here we go, right there. I've got a collection of like all of the Humphrey Bogart movies that he made under Warner Brothers, right? So it's pretty much all the ones that everyone knows. Dark Passage, Key Largo, Casablanca,
Maltese Falcon.
The Big Sleep, Maltese Falcon, all of those, right? The Petrified Forest. The only one that I think is not in that is the African Queen, but I think that's because that wasn't WB, but somebody else. But what sucks is all of those discs, every single one of them is that double-sided stuff. So I dread the day that I take one of those out and I realize it was loose in the case. And I look on the back and I'm like, Casablanca's ruined, and now I'm gonna have to go rebuy the damn thing.
Right.
On Blu-ray, so it'll be technically better quality than that, but still, it's the principle of the matter at this point.
Yeah.
So people are going to know that when I go to get this close to the mic, I'm going to say either something funny or just something, that I want to throw in. But, we know your disdain for double-sided DVDs and how deep they go, especially the extended cut variety.
Yeah.
Why you gotta bring that up, man?
Hey, I didn't bring the title. I didn't bring the title. We could leave it there
that's
and just
fine.
keep going.
Okay. All right. We'll continue moving.
Just let it go, David. Just let it go.
No, I won't, because again, I'm never buying those movies again. I refuse. And I feel bad because one of those movies is also a movie I really like, as outside of the three that we won't mention. I realized the other day, not Shawshank, Green Mile. Green Mile's that way.
Yeah, it is.
Green Mile Blu-ray and not Blu-ray, DVD. I'm like, okay, I remember buying that for the first time. Popping in is like, man, I haven't watched this movie in a while. Let's sit down and watch it. All right, get through it. Then like 3/4 of the way through the movie, it's like insert disc 2.
Yeah.
What? Did I get an extended cut of Green Mile and didn't let me look at the box? No, this is the regular cut of the movie. What the hell do you mean insert disc 2? What devilry is this, guys? It's not like I'm watching Gods and Generals and it's an 8-hour Civil War film. It's like, no, it's just the Green Mile. What is this shit? I don't understand.
I can get a 60-hour RPG on the PS2 called, Final Fantasy X, and it's all in one disc. But I can't get Green Mile and the trilogy that should not be named on this podcast. I mean, come on, guys. What are you using? The compact disc version of DVDs, not the real actual DVDs?
Yeah, VCD.
VCD.
It felt like it, man. That's where when Blu-ray came around. So it's like Blu-ray came around, and now all of a sudden it's okay. We can cram like literally everything on this disc, right? But I forget who it was. I think it was the Nerd talked about it. But for some reason, with the advent of Blu-ray, it got rid of the awesome menus that DVDs had, right?
Yeah.
Like you pull up, like I will never forget the first time I went and bought Memento, right? So Memento, the DVD, the special edition DVD that looked like the little slip file case, right?
Yeah.
You pop it in, and you take like a little test, right? And as you go through it, you get to the point where you can play the movie. Well, if you answer the questions in a specific way, it actually unlocked the ability to play the movie in chronological order.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Like the fact they hid this weird little Easter egg just in the opening of this DVD menu was fantastic. And now it's just like you bring it up and it's the same generic, right? Here's the movie, here's a screenshot from it, here's the title, here's the little bubbles with the same little icons for everything, right? That's on them. There's like no imagination.
Or you get the ones that are go like the overlay comes up and it like makes these like it's like
Oh.
it's mechanical moving around, or it has
Yeah.
the what was it a video on demand interaction if you have it online. It's like who
Yeah.
cares? I just want to watch the
Somebody
movie.
does.
But I remember us renting that. Me and Andrew and stuff. We're sitting there watching it, and then we're playing with the DVD. And we found out about the whole like playing it movie, playing chronological order, and we're like, "Oh man, this is great!" So we sit there and watched it again, like that. And it was awesome. But that was also cool too. Is like you had those like hidden menus. If you found like one little clickable thing, so like people would just sit there and go, "All right," and they just scan through the DVD to find these hidden little things you can click on that have extra stuff. I mean, that was so cool. I mean, but there was it on even on like what was it Game Winners or Game Facts, you could actually look up DVDs for the interactive parts that you could look up like it's a video game.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I mean, it's just one of those things that's gone by the wayside, right? Just like the little mini games that would be in loading screens for games. Because now
Yeah.
they want to, cut down on that as much as possible. It's like, look, I appreciate the fact I don't have to sit here and stare at this loading screen for, 4 or 5 minutes, it feels like. And so I don't have to entertain myself with this little thing. But still, there was like a level of creativity that went into those things that you kind of looking back on, you're like, you know what? That was kind of neat how they incorporated something there to entertain you because they knew that you're watching paint dry, right? You're like, okay, you're watching a thing that down at the bottom just says loading or whatever, and so you're like, all right, this is kind of crap and whatever. But like those kind of like little DVD menu things, especially with something as immersive as Memento, is it really helped kind of lead you into that mentality of the movie, right? Like you go into it if you've never even seen it before, and just the way that the menu interacted with you, it kind of got you in that headspace of, oh, okay, I'm getting into the mood for this movie. And I'm sure some people complained and they're like, I don't want to answer a stupid test. I just want to hit play and get on with it. Like, yeah, that's fine. I understand that. But for those that like those little things, it was just
Yeah.
the bygone
Yeah.
era, right?
Mm.
Now we just have 8 hours of behind the scenes stuff that nobody watches.
I used to. That was great. I mean, being someone who wanted to be a director, I was like, man, how did they make this movie? Listen to you'd watch the movie, then you'd watch the audio commentary with the actors and a director, then you'd watch all the special features with like how this was done. Man, it was just like just so much information. Just
so I'll
love.
still listen to the commentary track on certain stuff because the commentary track's just it's fun to hear, the stories behind certain scenes, right? And them explaining to you like, oh yeah, on this is when John like busted his head open, on this piece of the set or whatever, and we had to hold off shooting, and that's why like 8 scenes later, that's why you can see like a little mark over here. It's like, yeah, that's where that came from. It's like, oh, that's really interesting. That's a cool, all the little cool factoids from the people that lived it, right? That's it just adds that layer of interest to movies that makes them just that little bit more fun to kind of rewatch, because then you're looking for, oh, I wonder what scenes were shot after this event or happened this way, or even like you said, right, with the way certain shots were achieved or made. That was one of the reasons why I appreciated a lot of Robert Rodriguez's stuff, right? Because he was so heavily involved in all the effects and all the shots and everything that he did in his mariachi movies. That's like, yeah, listen to the commentary track, man. It was really cool to hear how they did some of the things that they did.
Well, it's also great being able to hear like the actors too. It's like really cool watching Escape from New York and hearing Kurt Russell and John Carpenter talk about the movie. Same thing with The Thing or Roddy Piper. Held him like, I didn't feel like I was a good actor, and just his thought process going into the movie, and then like the encouragement that John Carpenter gave him for the role, and it can kind of stick with it. But that goes into a segue here. But I want to ask one more question. Well, do you remember what your first Blu-ray was? Because I don't. That's a hard one for me, and that's much more recent than the DVDs. So it goes to show you the impact it had, even though I prefer Blu-rays because of the, visual fidelity, the more storage space, the
Yeah,
fact that
but the difference is, right, is by the time Blu-rays came around, you were already into your collecting, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I bought this movie, but did I first buy it on DVD or did I first buy it on Blu-ray? Or I never owned the DVD, but did I buy it before or after this other thing? Because especially if you collected older movies and older TV shows and stuff like that, right? It's like it's hard to pinpoint whenever you change what's the word for it? God dang it. Once you change formats, there we go.
Yeah.
Once you changed formats, it's like your brain doesn't know, oh yeah, I changed formats. I went from X to Y. It's just, oh yeah, now I own, Godzilla 1985 or whatever.
Right. When I go hunting for Blu-ray, I try to look for the ones that have the Blu-ray, the DVD. It's like my version of Captain America: First Avenger. I've got DVD, Blu-ray, and 3D. Plus, I had the digital code for it, all in one thing that I was able to buy. And that's the kind of stuff I dig, because if I want to be able to go back and forth and see difference or enjoy a little bit different viewing, I have all those options right there.
Yep. And then, go ahead, Counselor.
I was going to say, and another thing that certain DVDs and then certain Blu-rays do is somewhere along the movie, they offer you a different shot.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I always thought was cool, because you could go and watch the shot and then you could rewind it and say, okay, because they show you the second unit footage or whatever, which gives it an entirely different angle and different perspective and stuff, which I always thought was really cool. But not a lot of people do it anymore.
Well, you think about like the change in aspect ratio, especially just full screen, widescreen. Everything's
right.
Everything's now widescreen. But back then it was like there was movies that like we would watch because they were full screen, because they were just designed to be on the TV. That you didn't even know like some of the stuff was there on the sides of the screen,
right?
Compared to when you got to see it in widescreen. I remember how many times I watched somebody complain about the fact that I don't like the black bar, so I watch it in full screen. I mean, I watch it in full screen. I'm like, come on.
Enjoy your pan and scan there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, I hated that. When I noticed that after a while, it drove me nuts.
Well, what sucks now is that all those movies that were shot and designed to be in full screen, right? Or not necessarily always movies, but there's even shows and things, right? Like, so the collection of Dragon Ball that I have, technically you're missing sections of the picture on the bottom and on the top, right? Because they had to squish it and make it down into the widescreen format. So in some of those cases, you actually lose some of what was. It's almost, you almost wish they just would have stuck with, the original way that it was done, or if not, then at least done it in such a way that you kept I mean, who really cares that you see this much more of someone's shirt or whatever? But there's some times where you can, like, very specific shots where you just kind of watching it and having seen it before, you're like, I remember, I remember this being a little bit different. And then you realize, oh, it's because I saw just a little bit more and, something was off in the corner, or I had noticed something and now it's not there anymore. It doesn't necessarily detract overall from the scene, but it's just one of those things that you having a remembrance of it just kind of makes it seem off in that moment.
And in cases like that, I would think it would be more beneficial to have both versions on there. For the purists or the old school thing. Okay, I originally know Dragon Ball was on a regular screen TV. That's the way it was designed. It was okay, I want to watch that. The only time I'll really get into a wide screen of an anime is if I know that it came during a point where they started implementing the widescreen. But when you start going back to the old stuff and the stuff we've talked about on here before, the old,
unless it was a movie. Yeah.
Right. Unless it was a movie, you got it in that square format. So that's how I want to watch it. So, my VLC player will play them up just nicely, however I need it to be.
So and that's something too, is like, I know that talking about Dad was, I was, whenever Blu-rays were coming out, I was like, man, and when I found out there was an anime, I was like, I was getting it. And Dad was so dead set against animation on Blu-ray. He's like, you can't like make it high def. You can't do this because it's anime. And until he saw like some of the stuff, like he saw Akira, because he didn't realize that what some of these Blu-rays were doing was they were actually going back to the original film cells.
Yes.
Or going and taking them and digitizing them and make them look crisp. And it's amazing being able to like look at an animation back then with that higher fidelity than what we're getting. I mean, you see much more detail. And what's cool is like there's actually one I got that it was so clean that you could actually see the dust particles from when it was on the cell was inside the light, the light that popped it up and stuff. And it's like, that's kind of cool. I like that. I mean, it doesn't really detract anything. It actually kind of enhances the quality of the film to me anyway.
Right.
So, but yeah, he changed his mind after that.
Yeah. Having the dust and stuff like that is like going through and having the old films that are, when they can't recreate them, they have to digitize them down. You get the occasional flutter or something like, or the little thing in the film itself like that because of the age or whatever. Mm-hmm. It creates a nostalgia. It creates a warm, fuzzy feeling for those people who are the video files and the audio files. You'll go and hear that flutter in the audio. It's like having a VCR that's just off tune perfectly. Which I love sometimes. I mean, I have 5 VCRs still, and I clean them all the time and everything. Once in a while, I'll let them run a little longer than they should, just because I enjoy the remembrance of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds an aesthetic to it.
The tracking.
Exactly. That it's. I guess the same thing applies for audio for me when I'm doing stuff in the studio. You can go 96 kilohertz with recording now. To me, that's too clean. I keep it around 48K, 48 or 16 bit, or I keep it right at that cusp of where DVD audio and CD audio blend, because it adds a little bit of warmth. It adds a little bit of element in the background, little fractals, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't think of the right word, but that's the way I like it, because it adds, it's going back to the way, but being able to use current technology to get the older sound, which is now what a lot of people are, music industry are clamoring for.
Yeah, they're trying to emulate what was in the past and stuff.
They because it's become too clean, it's become too sterile, it's become too homogenized and processed and all that other garbage. You want to go backwards a little bit to try and say, okay, this was what worked. Let's go back to this and rebuild off of that.
Well, and there's a place for certain music to have the new feel, the new sound without that, those things. But then there's like music that just doesn't work for that type of cleanness. It needs to be, have that old feel.
Absolutely,
Just a little light sprinkling of grit on the top of it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's like with jazz. You want jazz, you can have jazz gritty or you can have it clean. Okay, they both work. It comes down to the style of jazz you're playing. Rock music needs a little bit of grit sometimes. Blues definitely want, the older it sounds, the better it sounds.
It is, yeah.
But a lot of this dance stuff and like the EDM stuff, which I really do like, some of the EDM stuff.
Yeah.
That needs to be crisper and cleaner because of the fact that they're requiring samples for a lot of what they do. So having it at that higher, clearer works for that.
Yeah, that's exactly. It goes to that whole synthesizing. It's you're making something that you're emulating something with digital sound versus like using an instrument that requires that analog or the older sound to be to make it sound better.
Yeah. But then even then, it's still what you're going for, because then you have like the entire 80s synthwave music where you're using synth, but because you're used to hearing it in movies and things, you want that little bit of fuzz to it.
Correct.
Because that's
The idea is to replicate, because basically a lot of that came from capacitors and chords that were messed up and input jacks that were dicey and recording boards that had little heat glitches and stuff like that. And they have this thing called VST, which is virtual studio technology that allows you to be able to get that stuff now. You know, like if you can't afford these old pieces of gear, you can go and get them virtually. And if you know how to use them, you can get the clean, you can get the dirty, whatever. So I guess it ties back around to being able to have a choice with videos. You know, you can, if you offer more choices on a disc, like 2 versions or whatever, you know, you get that wider audience.
Right. And so I know that some of the guys that I talk to that are in the collecting stuff, you know, collecting community, regardless if it's, you know, toys or video games or whatever, you know, some of these guys like collecting VHS. It brings them back to that nostalgia. I have a few VHS, but they don't do anything for me. Yeah, I'm nostalgic for those things, but I'm not I'm actually more nostalgic for the movie, not the media that it was put on. And I'm not saying that's stigmata. I'm not saying anything bad about, you know, these people who collect this stuff. But it's like, if I'm going to watch a film, I want the highest quality I can get, because I don't want to watch Terminator and be all blurry because it's what.
Because the heads need cleaning on the VCR.
VCR, the static, and then.
Are you telling me that you can't enjoy The Little Mermaid unless all the castles are penises? You're opening up that white clamshell, right, and pulling out that you know, blue little VHS to put in the VC. Are you telling me the movie's
a little
not
printed advert?
Yeah, the sleeve for the VHS copy.
There you go.
All right, look. So here's the thing, man. What's on that poster? You know, my sister used to have that poster with all that stuff on there. They actually made a poster of that cover with all that stuff on it. My sister had it on her wall, and we didn't even think anything of it until like people were like, look, there's penises on there. I guess. And it's like that one scene in Lion King where it says the wind blows and it says sex, and it's like, okay, man, you're really, really reaching. You're looking for something there. It happens. It does look like that, but you really have to be looking for these things for them to be any of this. I'm like, this is a kids movie. I'm gonna go look for things that they put in there subliminally, and then the subliminal messages are like, "You're an idiot. Stop looking for this shit that doesn't exist," and it flashes on the screen like 1 second.
Yeah,
and they're angry.
Yes, it's like Wizard of Oz. People go and try and get the highest quality to see if whether or not there's a midget swinging in the background from Suicide.
Oh yeah.
It's a bird. Because I remember everybody talking. But yeah, once all the super high quality Blu-rays and all that came out, and then everyone was finally able to see, right? They were able to turn up the brightness, whatever, and they look in the back, and it's just some random bird like in the background opening up its wingspan, and you're like, oh, how did anyone think that was someone hanging themselves back there? But okay.
For 60 years, people had to do
that. Well, and then was it but let's talk about like cool stuff. What is it? You take Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz, and you play it at the same time, and the music goes. That's cool. Yes. Why do we have to think about negative stuff? I mean, it's like, come on, guys. There's cooler stuff you could do.
Now the question is, have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, I have.
I've done that many times. I showed it to all my kids. I'm like, here, this is how 2 random pieces of media, 2 different formats, can become one symbiotic thing for a little while.
Yeah, and you know, you think about like, so we're talking about Pink Floyd and stuff, and it's the Pink Floyd movie. You know, that was a big thing growing up in my house because Uncle Gene and my dad and you guys, and it was like, that movie was like visually stunning. I mean, it was like everything that happened in that movie. It's out there. But you know, that was one of those things that like impacted me a lot. It was like that art style, everything in that, the whole Another Brick in the Wall and all that stuff. We just that whole album was great.
That's something I would actually like to see in Blu-ray.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of animation sequences that, you know, again, just like going back to the anime, it didn't get to live up its full potential because of limitations in technology at the time. But if you go back and you look at it now, it's gonna have a lot more definition to it, and there's probably all sorts of Easter eggs in there. that,
Mhm.
you know, because that's what Roger Waters could do.
Oh yeah.
He could
Yeah.
plant those seeds. He was
Oh, and it's
really
fun.
good at that.
And it's funny because like I grew up loving that music because of you guys.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I had my friends like, that's just pothead music. I don't smoke pot. I never have. So okay. But I can enjoy the music and the lyrics for what it is because
Absolutely.
I understand it. I was taught by people that played music, instruments and stuff, and these wonderful things that were going on with this. So I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. They were pioneers.
Yeah.
And it's like listening to certain eras of the Beatles. They said, you know, and this is something your dad could attest to, that there was a certain area where people thought you had to be completely stoned to enjoy a certain era of the Beatles, but no, you sit there and you listen to it. It's like we had you guys listen to it. Okay, listen to what they do.
Yeah.
You know,
George Harrison, a lot of George Harrison stuff was when he would be singing, those songs were very like that.
Yeah.
But they weren't really, I mean, they were meant to be whatever, but you could use it for whatever you wanted to.
Right. I mean, yes, they did some stuff and they were playing around with certain influencing things, if you will, but it didn't hinder what they were doing. It just gave them an extra spark at times.
Right.
But it wasn't meant to be under the influence.
All right, David, go ahead and say something. I'll continue what I was going to say. You're just smiling like, oh.
No, what I was going to say, it's, you know, like stuff like that, right? It's like, it's funny whenever you come across music like that, where there's like a whole genre of metal out there that's called stoner metal, right?
Yeah.
And I stumbled on some stuff and I was listening to it, like, man, I really like this and all that. I was like, I wonder what genre this is. It's like, oh, it's stoner metal. It's like, what is this? What makes this stoner metal?
Yeah, exactly.
Quite understand. It's like I get that every genre of something has got to have a moniker to it of some sort to differentiate it, but at the same time, it's like, I guess because it's got kind of a, I don't know, slower drone to some, I don't know. But it's like, yeah, you don't, just because it's called that doesn't mean you have to be stoned to enjoy it.
Enjoy it, correct.
Exactly.
You don't have to be.
You shouldn't be, because if you have to be in stoned to enjoy something, then clearly it's not very good.
It's like skate punk. It, you know, that it basically, when they refer to something as skate punk, it's basically music that's got a little more oompa loompa to it, if you will, and skaters listen to it when they're doing their thing. But it doesn't have to be. You can enjoy it without being a skater. You know, it became one of the prevailing things back in the day.
And I've talked about this before in the podcast. I don't, you know, my dad raised me. You guys raised me to be, you know, I can be creative. I can do these things. I can enjoy stuff without having to be under the influence. Exactly. And I'd rather have, and that was my thing. Is like, you guys raised me to not, I've never once thought about it. I'm asthmatic, so why would I?
Exactly.
I don't smoke. But the thing is, it's like I don't like condone anybody who does that. Whatever, do whatever you're gonna do. My battery's low on my headset, but anyway. But you know, I realized in life that there's other things I want to spend my money on.
That's exactly right.
I want to spend my money on toys, video games, hanging out with my friends, getting some good food. That's what gives me the high, not freaking smoking drugs to augment my mind.
Exactly.
I can listen to music and augment my mind and not be on anything.
Right.
But that's why they give you tablets, injectables, you know, Listerine strips. I mean, you can drink stuff. There's all sorts of ways to modify your mind. No, I understand. But I understand.
And I say that by drinking. I say that by drinking this right here.
But I mean, just blurt out.
Yeah. I mean,
that's perfect.
Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. There we go.
It's angry somebody.
I don't even drink. This is like what, the first drink I've had in like 6 months. I mean, I'd rather spend my money on other stuff.
Yeah, right. And I joke with people about it, right? Like, so I went to a happy hour with some coworkers, and it was the first time I'd really been out to a bar, right? And so we were all sitting around, you know, getting the drinks and all that. And I was getting to the point where I needed to leave, and I was looking around, and I had to lean over to one of my coworkers. I said, "How do I get out of here?" And they're like, "Oh, you got to close your tab." I'm like, "Do I just call the?" I had no idea if I just called the waiter over or what. How this? how this transaction worked
Happens.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so they just looked at me and they're like, you probably have so much money saved in the bank because you don't drink very much, do you? And I took one look at them. I said, no, because I have many other vices. And that's the way I always put it, right? It's like I don't drink a whole lot. I don't get into a bunch of things because I have my own vices
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
my funds just well enough.
My Star Wars case that you guys can't see, but it's been in the episode. You know, with my Star Wars figures, you know, my video game collection. It's like those are the things that I want to spend my money on. You know why? Because I can take those things and play them with my son and make a memory. I can take those
Right.
things and play with my friends and family and make a memory. And those are long lasting than a temporary fix. Now, I'm not trying to preach. Do what you're going to do, whatever helps you get by. But that's just me.
I mean,
And-
it goes to, and it's kind of back to the conversation I was having with that friend of mine's wife about the whole topic, right? Because her whole thing was she would prefer that money to go to like going on a trip or having something like that where you would have a real world experience of something. And there's something to be said for, going out. I like what you're saying, right? You like to go out and hang out with friends. It's not just all sitting in your house all day long and just playing video games and talking to people through a headset, right? It's going out and having a face-to-face interaction, going out and physically seeing and experiencing something. There's definitely something to be said for those kinds of experiences and reactions and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, but the reason why I like owning a movie or a TV show or something is because, like what you said, I can come back to it, right? I can't technically come back to that memory as the way I had it. I can go try to make new memories of it, but a movie I can watch over and over again, and it will always be that thing. So it's what are you really wanting out of your life experiences? Do you want the constant flux, or do you enjoy being able to come back to that safe point, or it's not really a safe point, but that familiar point and enjoying something familiar, right? And it's just it all boils down to the individual and what you personally enjoy.
Right.
And this goes back to a previous episode we talked about nostalgia. It's what it is. We're always looking for a way to go back in time to what made us happy.
Right.
And sometimes people want to go way back to when they were at their happiest. They may not even be in a good time or good place in their life right now. And sometimes we need that to be able to get by. But sometimes you got to be able to do that in the now. You got to make those new memories so that way you can progress. I know we're going into a whole life topic and stuff, but to me, that's what the meaning of life is.
It's about
There
growing up
is-
and becoming dads.
Yeah, growing up, becoming parents, dads, and continuing that cycle, continuing that process of passing on that knowledge, passing on that time and experience that you gained to the next generation.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what's going to guide the future to somewhere brighter. The sad thing is we have people out there that don't want to do that. They are still stuck in their ways. And you know what? There's nothing I'm unable to be able to do to change that. And not going into a whole political thing, because I'll never go into political stuff on this podcast. But I think what was it? The movie Scrooged with
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, and at the end of the movie is like, we all need a little love. His little speech at the end, talking about just joy and everything. Those are the messages that we need in life right now. But you can be ready for the world to end. But in the meantime, you should be happy. You should work towards being happy. Life's going to be shit, and it's always going to be shit. But you got to find those happy moments. Sometimes you actually have to make them. You can want something in your hand, but if you don't ever make an effort to do it, it'll never happen. People expect things to happen. It's like, I wanted to do this podcast for a long time, and I couldn't get my friends to do anything. And, I love them because some just weren't into it. They don't want to be on camera. They don't want to be. I totally get that. I totally get also that, they don't, I'm not going to jump in this until I know it's viable.
Yeah.
what? I'm not going to become an artist because I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to learn how to ride a bike because I'm not going to be a sports cyclist right off the first time I try to ride a bike. It takes time. It takes effort. You know, everybody can draw. It just takes effort to get better at it. Everybody can write. It just takes effort to learn the ins and outs of what is necessary and needed to become a good storyteller.
Yeah. Everybody can learn. They just have to want to.
Yeah. Anybody can become a musician. You know, I mean, there's things out there, even if like people that are, you know, amputees, you know, they find ways to do the things they love. Why should we be limiting ourselves to just because things aren't going our right way? You know, a lot of us go into dark paths, and, you know, it's hard. It's really hard. You got to find those things that remind yourself of the things that are wonderful in your life. I have had hard times, and I don't ever like being in those positions because I want to be here. I want to be with my family. But it's hard sometimes to get over the depression that you have, what's going on in your life. Things may not be going right. I know we're going really deep, but it's important.
Well said.
So on a different topic real quick, because I had a weird dream last night. And this dream, I don't know why I had it. I have no clue why I had it. I was telling Amber about it. And I guess it's the best way for me to kind of like write it down without actually having to write it down. Just record it. It's going to go on the episode. The ether can hear it. Now, this should be a movie. I'm copywriting it right now. This is my story. Anyway, so I had a dream where I was in Japan. It wasn't me. Actually, I was like watching somebody go through this stuff. And this was a guy that had owned a business. He's like middle-aged, balding in the back a little bit. He had been dealing with a lot of punks, messing up his shop and other things. And he's been trying to renovate it, make it better, and he's just dealing with all this stuff. Well, when he comes home, he's dealing with ghosts and poltergeists or whatever, phantoms. And the vivid part of my dream was like when he went home after he was like dealing with the punks at his shop, is like he had to deal with all this crap at home. There was this like just ghost attacking his family. He was just beating the crap out of him, trying to get them off his family. And there was like this one moment where his son was sitting next to a cabinet, and the cabinet door opens and these hands just come out and grab the boy and try to pull him into the cabinet. That dude's like, no, and it just starts beating the crap out of this stuff and gets his family outside. And he's just like, I don't know how he was able just to keep going. You know, he was going through this traumatic stuff. And it was weird because there was moments where I was looking through his eyes, and then there was moments where I would see behind him. Like I was kind of like watching him. It was like, I tapped into like some other universe where some dude, or maybe even someone in real life, that's dealing with this in Japan. It's crazy. I don't even know where I came up with my brain subconsciously came up with this. Cause like, what was it? I watched The Atom Project. I watched Gattaca, and then I watched some other movie. It was just something I haven't watched in a long time. And it's like, I need to go to bed. I can't watch any more movies. And I went to sleep. I had a nightmare. I'm like, but it didn't scare me. I was like, what the hell am I watching? This is weird. This isn't in me. But it was just a weird experience. I mean, I know like we've had weird dreams before, but you know, this was a little different than I've had in a long time. Have y'all had any weird dreams lately?
Yeah, but unfortunately I can't remember them right now.
The only really weird dream so it's not really weird because technically it happens fairly often. It's one of those dreams where it's a thing that regularly occurs to you, but then your brain takes it to an insane extreme, right? So my scalp is very sensitive. So whenever I'm putting stuff, you know, whenever I'm going to work and things, I put stuff in my hair so I'm not just this giant frizzy mess constantly, right? But it irritates the ever-loving crap out of my scalp. And even showering or bathing, you know, every single night and washing that stuff out, every time I apply it each new day, it's just there's an irritation. So I always have an itch somewhere that I got to pick at, right? So I had a dream where I was bald, which is horrifying to me, although it is happening slowly but surely. It's fading back, and my grandfather had the classic. It's not really classic monk. What is classic monk here? No, that's Jewish guy. The Picard, right, is what my grandfather had on my mom's side, and supposedly male pattern baldness is maternal, and so I'm screwed. But I had a dream where I was completely bald, and like my entire scalp was just this giant raw dried out sore, and I was just like picking skin off of it, and it was horrible.
Man, I'm eating.
Yeah, that was that.
Come on, Colin. He's eating. I'm eating, man. Come on.
I had that dream like a week ago, and I just every time I think about it, it just makes my skin crawl. Literally, just my scalp just becomes irritable. I'm just like, oh, that's terrible. But yeah, but no. So for weird dreams, right? I think the weirdest dreams are the ones that give you those deja vu moments, right? It's like you have this dream, you vaguely kind of recall it a little bit, and then time passes along, and then you have that moment where you're like, I've been not ever, not necessarily everybody has them, but you just have that moment all of a sudden where you're just like, I've had this conversation before. I've been in this moment once before. This is extremely weird, right? I think those are the ones that weird me out. I've never had weird, oddball off, like not anything that didn't deal with me, right? All my dreams have always been something that's going on with me, whether it be something normal every day brought to the extreme, like the scalp thing, or a real life event that just happens to pass, and I don't really realize it until months or even maybe a year later down the line, when it's all of a sudden realized, oh shit, I think I had a dream about this once, and it hits you.
I've had a lot of those. So is my sister. Yeah. That's definitely an episode on its own of us just talking about dreams, because there's a couple of them that I remember that were. I had one that kind of played off my fear. I have one fear, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast, but I don't remember. But I have one fear, and that is to be the only person alive in the world, kind of the last man kind of thing, and just existing.
And then your glasses break, and you're like, but there was time now.
There was time now. There was time to read. No. But I've always had that fear. I've always had the fear of like, everybody I know or everybody in the world just dropping dead, and then like me just being left alone. And I actually had a dream like that. And I'll save that for the dream episode to kind of go into that. But I don't know if that's because of the fact that like, as Anna puts it, the separation anxiety because of my mom and all that stuff, how she wasn't close to me when I was a kid. And then like my dad was always there for us, but he worked a lot. So it was kind of like me and my sister sometimes. I know that's a little bit of Colin there, or like Uncle Gene, or the family, or we weren't left alone. But it was just like there's you as a child, you get these feelings sometimes.
Yeah.
And I remember
everybody's messed up. Everybody's messed up some way, right?
Yeah.
It's that joke that Patton Oswalt talked about, where he said, I got a kid now, so I'm reading all the most recent books about all the recent child rearing theories and all this stuff, and I'm completely screwing it up. And she's going to be in a therapist, and she's going to be telling me about how this horrible fetish that she has is because I at one point did X, Y, or Z, right? It's like that's the joke. No matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, there's always going to be some decision, some moment, something that's going to implant itself into your kid's head. That's going to, like, we all have some level of trauma, right? And because everyone came up in a different way, your trauma threshold is different from people. So someone who had their parents split at a very young age, right, might not have those feelings of loneliness because they got used to at such a young time of bouncing between that. And then there's someone else who might have had their parents that they're together in their whole lives, but the both of them work so often that they do have that kind of separation anxiety to it.
Yeah.
It's where it's like you never really know until you get really self-reflective where your weird tics are, because everyone's got them. We've all got a little bit of anxiety somewhere.
Oh yeah.
I used to have a lot.
Especially after the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for most people, that's when they discovered them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nothing like a little whole world being shocked to really drag out all your demons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
new ones.
So let's go on a different a better topic here.
Keep changing topics and we keep taking it to this horrible dark
we
place.
were going really good with just the music, the film, and dads and badass women in films.
Let me show you let me show you this again. This is a laptop I was given. The monitor just didn't want to behave. Couldn't tell, it wasn't even registering, like it wasn't plugged in. So earlier today, I said, okay, I'll pop it open and I'll see if I can figure out if it's even connected. Ended up destroying the top and the monitor screen. So now I have this laptop. That's just a laptop.
So does it have a
It works. It's got the VGA out.
VGA? Okay, or an HDMI.
It's got HDMI out. So it's
Hey,
got two
it's the first. It's a Surface Pro without the screen.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, okay, this is kind of fun. It's just like, but this was part of my day.
Oh man, was it? We had a guy that had. Oh no, it was okay. So it was the warehouse team's manager. I think it was. He got into a wreck, or got hit behind. He had some laptops in the back of his car.
Oh no.
Actually, I don't remember who it was, but he had a laptop he was supposed to be bringing back to me during the move process. And he got in the wreck, and they finally was able to get stuff out of the car, and he brought me it. And it was just like this accordion laptop. I had a picture of it somewhere. It's probably somewhere on my Google Drive. I had to find it. It was hilarious. I'm like, I'm glad you're alive, man, but this is hilarious. Yeah, there's so many stories of my job about, like, people who just don't take care of their equipment.
Oh, horror stories. Oh, that's when I get those phone calls. Is there anything you can do for it? It's in 4 pieces. What do you want me to do?
I was honestly being a horrible delinquent because with my laptop, the battery was swelling. And so the touchpad was starting to come up further and further. And I have coworkers that I had seen their laptops and their mouse pad all the way around was not touched. I don't know how they typed because their hands had to have been making contact with that. Well, if you type correctly, right, with the whole, this is how I use it, but they probably do this, so they were probably fine. But like I've seen them to where they got to the point where their battery, even plugged in, no longer functioned because it was just so bad. And I didn't let it get to that point. All you people, I was good. I saw it swelling. It was getting up to the point. I was like, all right, the mouse pad's starting to stick up enough to where my hands are making contact. I need to get it sorted out. And also it gave me a chance to go back to the home office where we're right next to a bunch of really awesome eateries, including an awesome sushi place. So I got to stop off, have some good food for an afternoon. I just wish it was a Friday. Unfortunately, it was a Wednesday, but you take what you can get, right?
Yeah. Well, so I've had a couple laptops that people give me that I've had to make repair calls, and the guy on the phone's like, "Yeah, can you type? Is the touchpad working after it's been like that swollen?" No. Why didn't they say anything? Well, they have a mouse and keyboard wireless, so they're not really using it like that. Why didn't they tell you so you could do this sooner? Users, they'll work with it until it breaks, and then they want it now.
Yeah.
But the worst one was, it's not the worst one, but this is the funniest one. I'm sitting there in the office and I get a knock on the door and this lady goes, "Yeah, my laptop won't come on." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'll take a look at it. Did you put a ticket in?" "Yeah, I put a ticket in." "Okay, I found a ticket." Looking at it, and there's like this sticky residue on the bottom in the vent area where the fan blows out all the hot air.
Oh,
She had spilled Coke on it
Good.
and tried to play it off that it just wasn't working. And like when I took it apart, you could see where like the Coke was still dripping and it was inside the motherboard. Yeah,
Yeah,
this needs
caramelized.
to be completely replaced. Of course, her department had to pay for a new laptop.
Yeah, you love that whole mentality. I don't see the. I think I fooled them, so they're going to be fooled.
Yeah,
It's like when you had the old phones when they got wet, there was a little white thing,
little white thing that shows if it indicates
that changed colors. I had a friend come to me one time and says, "Can you fix that with white out so I can fool them?" I tried it. Well, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't work. They figured it out.
Yeah.
But I've seen batteries swollen on phones so much that it blows the back of the phone off. I'm like, oh man.
Well, and it's sad too because we have users that we used to have managers that would sit there and go, "Oh, well, my employee left," and then one of their employees' computers would break, and they put a ticket in. And we're like, "Okay, let me have your computer, and we'll work on this, and we'll try to get you a new one real quick." Okay, and there we go down there to do something with them. They're like, then they're working on a computer. "Where did you get this computer from?" "Oh, my manager gave it to me." "Hey, where did you get this laptop that you gave your employee to be using?" "Oh, this was so and so's who left like 6 months ago." Hand it over.
Give.
I don't know how many times it was like at least 50 times we came across that with my job. Like, come on, guys, come on. It takes so long to get equipment. Well,
yeah, you IT guys are just too slow. I'm sorry.
okay.
I need help with it. I need help with this. And then like an hour, okay, I'll be up there in 5 minutes. Like an hour later, okay, here's IT. Dude, it's fixed. It took you an hour to come here.
Yeah, because they're chasing down the laptops that aren't issued properly.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Do you think that IT guys just sit down and do nothing all day until they get a ticket?
I've been in the IT area and it smells like nothing but BO, and all I heard was laughing.
Okay, no. See, like for me and my team, it's like we're busy. We have a ticket queue of like, I think in the 700s. So we're always working. And then we'll get new tickets and it's like, okay, we will get to you when we can because we're dealing with like critical issues. And then a high ticket or a VP calls and goes, "I want this to happen now." So then your boss is like, "Expedite it." "Oh, this is your top priority. You can't do anything else." But there's all these other tickets that are like there too. So then they'll escalate it. And it's like, okay, which one do you want me to do? Yeah, it's a hot mess.
The joys of adulting.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
So push yourself forward. Stop being low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, tell me about it. So okay, guys. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Do y'all want to go ahead and add something real quick before we close out? I know we went kind of a little deep, and I apologize for everyone for the little deep philosophy here. And I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to lecture anyone. I'm just stating my feelings. And the internet, it doesn't really matter. I'm just some nobody.
Yeah, but even nobodies get yelled at by the butthurt masses whenever they get upset about something. It's like, look, you enjoy the things you enjoy. You're into the things that you're into, right? We're all just looking for our own little slice of happiness, however which way we can find it. And as long as you're not doing anything that's damaging to other people, right? It's like,
right.
Who cares?
Be it a video, be it a game, painting yourself blue and chasing pink flamingos down the street, whatever it is, enjoy it. Do your thing.
Do your thing. Yeah. Whatever makes you happy, as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else in the process.
Yeah, just don't dismember people with chainsaws and you'll be good.
Also, No, before I end this episode, don't ever dress yourself as the Hulk and paint yourself green. Because
The more you know.
you'll be washing it out for weeks.
Is that some personal testimony there?
Not me. This is left in for a special father of mine who I love very much. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Everyone, I hope you all enjoyed the episode. I know we went from really cool topics to a little bit of preachy and some weird stuff, but this was fun. I needed this tonight. I know the guys down below needed this tonight. Tell us below any dreams you've had lately. And, if you would like to see the episode where we talk about dreams, I want to expand the podcast to talk about some other topics. And
if you got an idea for a topic, post it below.
Yeah. And always, if you enjoy what we do, please like, comment, subscribe. I guarantee you it's going to get better. I'm working on it. I have my team here that's helping me out. We're really trying to make this better for everyone. So until then, guys, have a good one and have a good week. Later.
Deuces.